Hello, Internet. Hello, beautiful beings. We'll take a moment to see if anybody cares to join us today for a little morning routine, a little bit of some flow to start the day off. Let me know in the comments if you do watch these, if earlier is better. That is the feedback that I've gotten from a few people. It's like, hey, I work and don't teach meditation all day, and so earlier would be better. So let me know what time in the morning you do your morning flow, and I'll see if I can sort of make some adjustments. Although I will say, getting me up and ready early in the morning just might not happen. But thought I would sort of set the mood, set the tone, create some ambiance for our practice here today while we talk about yoga. These matches are really magical when I can get them to light, but getting them to, ooh, see? It's like a sparkler. So, yes, I thought we would talk about yoga today. And I thought we would go back to sort of the basics. Back to the basics of yoga. When I first started, getting into yoga, I used to be a gymnast, and I was kind of just looking for something, a form of movement that wasn't like your typical sport, if you will. I've never been a very sporty person, and I never felt like I fit in with the dance crowd, and so I kind of fell into yoga in that way, and I kind of resonated with some of the maybe more spirituality aspect of it, but I also remember like people being like, oh no, yoga is more than just movement, it's a philosophy, and at the time I was kind of like, eye roll. I was like, okay, like I get it. But I didn't get it. What is really meant by yoga is so much more than asana, which is just the movement aspect of yoga. Yoga actually has 8 limbs, 8 different aspects to it, and most of them are spiritual and philosophical. And to go back to the root and really understand what yoga is, I think it's valuable to look at the word itself. And the word itself in Sanskrit often translates as something like unity. Okay, unity. And if we're going to talk about the philosophy of yoga, right? If yoga is more than an exercise, then it's a philosophy. It's a way of life. It's a movement. Okay, then what does philosophy mean? So I was big into philosophy, and so when somebody said, oh, the philosophy of yoga, I was like, But I was also a little biased to that too, because at the time, studying philosophy at a university, I was like, oh, pish posh, yoga is not a philosophy, right? It's not what we typically think of as a modern day philosophy, and it isn't. But I think going to the root of these words, the philosophy of yoga, gives you a really good insight into what this practice can offer, and even what the movement aspect of this practice can offer. And so philo, it means lover, Sophie means wisdom, okay, and yoga means unity. Ooh, okay, that's kind of juicy. The lover of the wisdom that is unity, philosophy of yoga. Okay, so let's talk about that. Lover of wisdom. So it's not knowledge, right? It's not a knowing thing, right? Wisdom, when we think about wisdom, we think about, someone who has a lot of life experience, okay? So wisdom is more than just facts, more than knowing things, right? It's a sort of intuitive sense, right? It's a dogma as a whole, a discourse as a whole. If dogma is too spiritual for you, discourse as a whole, philosophy. So, lover of wisdom, lover of the wisdom of unity. Okay, unity. So much of our thinking, right, is categorical thinking. I think we see a lot of this, especially in society as of late, this sort of breakdown of some of the polarities that we've typically been used to. and the polarities that we create within the mind that then reflect itself through society. I bet you can think of a few of what that might be, right? Gender, sexuality, race. We tend to create categories, but when you look at the reality of nature, when you look at the reality of things, this is actually a very fluid scale. And scale itself isn't even really a good way to put it, because we live in this 3D expansive phenomena, right? So unity. All right, what other things do we polarize? Do we separate in our life? Mind, body, right? Unity within the mind-body is a big one for yoga, right? Unity within me and the world outside of me. How can I stop creating lines and experience more unity in my life? More harmony is another way to translate it. More harmony. Harmony between the parts of what you think of as parts. And so when I think about the asana practice, the things that you typically think of when you think of with yoga, right? The movement, right? The poses, asana translates to mean pose, posture. So the yoga postures, how do those facilitate unity? Well, there's a whole discourse about the unity of the body and how all of the different pieces actually work together as one phenomenal experience, the body, right? But also, like I said, the body and the mind, right? All these different postures are also in the present moment. They require you to focus. The asanas are an exercise not in just exercising the physical body, but an exercise in practicing unity of this present moment. It is a way to take your categorical overthinking mind and put it into the phenomena that is here and now, into the phenomena of your bodily, present, breathing experience. And so that is what we are going to do today. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of a yoga flow. We are going to stick to what might be considered the basic yoga flow, which is the sun salutation, okay? The sun salutation, I wouldn't say is the most adaptive flow. It isn't the most adaptive, it's not the most available to everyone, but it is very fundamental if you're going to walk into a core power or just any yoga class. It's probably built on the foundation of these poses. And of course, there's tons of different lineages, tons of different traditional flows, but I think that this one is a good starting place for you. If you want to explore making the sun salutation more adaptive, please let me know in the comments, and I'd be happy to make an adaptive sun salutation flow. Sometimes that looks like exploring, trying these postures and creating these shapes on your back, or with a chair, or with different props, or lessening the depth of the pose and coming and making it a little softer. So there's things that you can do to because yoga is unity, so it should absolutely be for everyone and for all, and it is. You just have to learn how to make the asanas, which is just one limb of all of yoga, for you, how you can adapt it for your particular physical experience. So if you want a video on that, if you want me to create an adaptive sun salutation flow, again, let me know in the comments. But I'm going to switch over to our little intro music elevator type thing while I move the camera and move everything up so that we can move on to our yoga mat, and you should do the same. So just take 5 minutes. Maybe you want to light some incense like I did just for briefly there. Maybe you want to roll out your yoga mat, move some furniture, do what you need to do to create space for our very brief, we'll probably do a 20-minute flow today. Okay? All right. So I'll be right back with you. sort of pulling together your space. I like to think too, when I cultivate my environment, that it helps facilitate my mindset, helps facilitate my practice. And so the more time that I take in the morning to really set the scene, I used to think, oh, that was a waste of time, and I should just get started into my meditation. But now I see that some of those sort of ritualistic things that I do to set the scene really help create a mood, create a vibe, create an ambiance. And that's really valuable when getting into your practice and setting your mind. That's why sometimes when you go to a yoga class and just the studio space itself really facilitates the type of relaxation, inner work, those types of things. So don't downplay the energy. Oh, can you even hear me? I forgot I moved the mic. Don't downplay the time that you take in setting up your space, is the gist of what I was saying, if you could even hear me. Live streaming. So many nuances that I am still figuring out, so I really appreciate y'all hanging out with me while I work out those kinks. Okay, so we are going to start, and we're going to start by actually standing. The Sun Salutation A, we start standing at the top of the mat. So okay, so we start standing at the top of the mat, and we're not at the very top. I want to leave some space. I would say I've got a quarter down, okay? And I ground into the feet. What does that mean? I'm spreading the toes. I'm trying to create the weight of my body is evenly dispersed across my feet. So when you hear your yoga instructor say, oh, ground down, this is what they mean. Physically, balanced, stacked. So my shoulders are over my hips are over my knees are not extended, right? They're not snapped back, they're soft, and my knees are over my ankles. So I'm stacked, and like a tree, I imagine my roots coming down into the earth. So there's the physical aspect of grounding, and then there's this mental, emotional stillness, grounding, practical here and now. So while this first posture, this first asana might seem like there's not a lot going on, there is. It's bringing your attention into the body, into the center of gravity or your center of balance. This is a great place for you to close the eyes and set the intention for your flow. Grounding. So we've got this grounding pose here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do some breathing. The arms are going to raise, and exhale, they fall down. Inhale, arms raise. Exhale, they fall. Inhale, arms raise, and then we're going to swan dive and we're going to forward fold. Bend the knees as much as you need, okay? Let the head hang heavy. So I don't want to be like so, where my neck is compressed. I'm releasing the neck, dropping everything down, bending the knees, okay? I'm still really grounded in the feet, pressing into all corners of my feet, into my toes. And then I'm going to press my hands now into the mat. So bend the knees as much as you need. Maybe you're super flexible and the knees are straight and the head is released. Maybe that's you. Feel where you're at. Listen to your body. You find the place where you can feel the stretch, but there's no pain, no resistance. And the longer you settle into the pose, the deeper you end up going. It's not a competition. It's about turning inwards. It's about exploring the body, about being present in this unified experience. So pressing the palms into the mat, right? I'm now going to shift my weight over to the left side so that I can send this right foot back, okay? make any adjustments you need here. We're going to come into a warrior one. So this back foot, when I set it down, if you look closely, is at a 45-degree angle to the top of the mat. From here, I squeeze the hips. Make sure I'm nice and stable so you can make any adjustments that you need. The knee should be stacked over the ankle. I'm going to come into warrior one. So I squeeze the hips and I lift the torso up. A lavalier mic would be brilliant right now. All right, so warrior one. Fully engaged in the body here. So I'm squeezing the core. I check that my knee is directly over my ankle, and this back foot is at a 45-degree to the top of the mat. Warrior one. So this is Sun Salutation B. Sun Salutation A is a little bit simpler, and I do believe I already have a video out on Sun Salutation A that you can go watch, and I'll see if I can link that below for you. But we come into warrior one. And then we're going to open up to warrior two. So let me repeat that motion for you. If you're already in warrior two and you're familiar with this, then you can stay here in warrior two. But let's just walk through what that was. From here, my hips are about a 45-degree angle to the top of the mat in warrior one. In warrior two, I'm opening them up a little bit more. I'm not fully perpendicular to the long ways of my mat. Instead, I'm also equally kind of 45-degree angle to the top of the mat, and I rotate on this back foot. So, and I come out with the hands energetically through the fingertips, reaching, extending through the fingertips. Once more, checking that the knee is stacked over the ankle. Whew. This Colorado thin air, I'm from Colorado, but I've been sea level for like 7 months, and I'm feeling it, you guys. We're going to slide this back hand down and reach to the back of the room. This is reversed warrior. Come back to warrior two, and then we're going to windmill the hands all the way down. So what I mean by that is we're going to rotate on the ball of the foot here, and my hands are going to follow one after another to frame this front foot, sinking into the hips. And from here, now I'm pressing into the hands and pushing up through the shoulders because I'm going to send this left foot to the back of the mat into a plank and then into downward dog. Downward dog, I'm sending the hips back, the shoulders back. The breath here is nice and soft and natural and neutral. And I'm letting you can walk out the feet, you can settle into the pose however you need. And then we're going to switch sides. So this right foot is going to come up and then step it through the hands. Okay. Now I'm ready to enter back into that warrior one position. I plop my heel down and the torso rises. Okay. So I'm sinking down in the hips. I've got my knees stacked over my ankle. This back foot is at a 45-degree angle to the top of the mat. My hips are almost square to the top of the mat. I think I might have mistaken you and said that they were 45 degrees. You're 45 degrees to the top of the mat in warrior two, almost square to the top of that mat in warrior one, okay? Then we're going to open up warrior two. So our arms are up and extended. Rotating on that back foot. Now the back foot is at a 45-degree angle to the back of the mat. The hips are not perpendicular because that would cause my knee to splay in, but 45 degrees to the top. Then we're going to reverse our warrior, send it to the back, Reach to the back, and then we're going to windmill all the way down. Now we're going to take this back foot and we're going to step it all the way forward. And we're back into our forward fold. Release the head. Let the body hang. And then we'll slowly rise. We are back at standing. Breathing and grounding. All right, everyone. From here, we'll just take a seat, okay? So, just a little introduction to a few asanas. I feel like the more familiar you are with that sun salutation B, the more comfortable you will feel walking into any yoga class. So the more that you become familiar with that flow, you'll see that so many of the other postures, so many of the other flows use that as its foundation, okay? So I know that wasn't a super long flow, but just one sun salutation in the morning at least makes a big difference for me, just a little bit of movement. And I will sort of soften, just make sure we didn't get all of the other parts of the body, okay? So just like yesterday, let's sort of move into the torso. Aside from the forward folding, there's not a lot of movement in the torso. Unless you get into doing more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Chaturanga, if you're familiar with yoga. Then you get a little bit of that spinal work with the upward dog. So we're just feeling into the body. Let's roll the shoulders. Roll the neck. Careful in the back of the neck, not to crunch the neck. Roll the wrist. Shake out the legs. Tap the feet together. You can never see my feet when I do this. We're tapping the feet together like so. This is a little qigong movement. Gets stagnant energies flowing through the body. And then when you pause, do you feel those little tinglies? Shake out the legs. And we'll come into seated for just a brief little meditation today. Unity, right? So mind, body, balance, right? Balance, unity, harmony. That is what yoga is about. So the more you can step away from, okay, this is about doing the postures, right? This is about doing, making the fancy Instagram asanas look good, right? That's what yoga is about, and sometimes it appears that way, right? The more you can step away from that and say, how can I start embodying, how can I start being, feeling, experiencing unity, harmony, peace, balance. These are really the real things that yoga is about, and meditation is absolutely integral into that. So let us take a moment of stillness. The shoulders are going to drop down the spine. The spine becomes very long. Now remember, every body is different, so your physical seated meditation posture might not look the way mine does, and that's okay. Please go see my video about how to sit. And even that video only gives you a few options. Mostly this is about finding a sustainable posture for the mind to settle, because the mind and the body are one. And as the shoulders drop down, as the chin becomes level to the ground, as the eyes fall closed, feel into the breath. And allow the mind to be on the inhale and the exhale, watching as the inhale melts into the exhale, and these two breaths become one. And if the mind starts to wander, that's okay. You can allow it to do so. This is just a moment to be, a moment to breathe, where nobody needs anything from you. Nothing needs to be solved mentally. Just breathe, just be. Let the mind do as it will, trusting in the process that it will soften. Very slowly, very gently, allow the palms of your hands to move towards the heart center in a symbol of balance, as a symbol of unity, harmony, a coming together of what the mind has separated. And the longer you sit in meditation, the longer you allow all the different parts and pieces to just be this experience, to just be here and now. The sounds, the body, the thoughts in the mind, all coming and going simultaneously and in a dance of the present moment. Very gently allow the palms of the hands to rise to the space between your brows. The thumbs will touch the space between your brows and draw across the eyebrows and over to the temples, massaging the temples, releasing any mental tension you might still be carrying with you. The palms of the hands come to cover the eyes completely. The eyes open behind the palms of your hands. Gaze left and right and up and down. And the hands rinse down the face, rinse over the neck, over the arms, over the entire body. And there we are. Thank you all so much for joining me today, joining me in a little bit of some movement and a brief, review of those basic fundamental ideas of yoga. I am so grateful for any and all time you spend in self-care. I really believe it is in service of the highest good. So you should be proud of yourself, and I am more than proud, more than grateful for you and all that you do. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, everybody. And I will see you back here roughly around this time, maybe earlier. Who knows? I'm unpredictable. I'll see you back here tomorrow.